Wow, what a great panel. Now I'm worried. Guys, why don't you come up here and I'll introduce you. We got Dom, stairs over here, Dom Alessio, Martin Price, ONErpm, Don Alessio, Sounds Australia. And we are talking about taking artists global. I don't know if we can match that interesting panel that we just had. But first, guys, why don't you just give a little bit of background about yourselves so people know who you are and what you've done. Mainly music, not mountain climbing.
Yeah, my name is Martin Price. Started in music in Jamaica. I was a booking agent, working primarily with reggae and dancehall. From there,
one sec. I know the last panel was interesting, but I'm going to ask people to quiet down and respect my panelists. Hello, Bernie. I'm going to ask you to quiet down, respect my panelists. If you want to talk, there's a lounge out there. Thank you very much. Thanks, Martin.
And yeah, from the booking, just kind of naturally progressed into distribution and label, again in Jamaica, and then from Jamaica, wanted to broaden that horizon and ended up over the last 5 years traveling around and opening up 15 different offices across Africa, Asia, and Europe for ONErpm.
Cool, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Dom Alessio. I work for Sounds Australia, so we're the Australian Music Export Office. So I get the great privilege of getting to go around the world and evangelize Australian music. Our role is to connect Australian artists and music businesses with international opportunities. So I get to spend a lot of time on the road. Before that, much like Rob, I started my career as a music journalist.
Right.
A very lowly paid, not great music journalist, and then moved into radio. And there's a station at home called Triple J, and I had the great fortune of hosting the Australian Music Show on that station for 8 years, and then started at Sounds Australia in 2018.
Great, thank you. So the topic of this panel is taking music global, how to expand artists' careers. I'm going to start just one step behind that, and then we'll move forward. Can you guys offer some strategies? Or also, Martin, I know you have a concept of how an artist should work. So maybe we'll start with that, and then we'll take it from there to going global.
Sure. I think when you talk about going global, when you talk about artistry in general, one of the biggest kind of misses that people have is looking at your career as an artist as a business. So people just look at music, they want to make music, they want to become famous, they want to live on their music. That's all great, but at the end of the day, it starts as a business. So when you're trying to get other people, other companies to work with you, you need to sell yourself as a business, just as any business would find investors. You as an artist are in essence asking booking agents, asking distribution companies, asking labels, asking publishers to invest in you. And so if you were a business, if you were an investor, would you invest in a business that doesn't have a plan? Would you invest in a business that doesn't have a team? Would you invest in a business that can't show you a realistic path towards success, right? And I think a lot of artists are looking at the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and what they aspire to be, which is great, but you also have to think about what that journey looks like and how you're going to get there and communicate that to these potential investors, and that's how you're really going to be able to find success.
Great. You want anything, Dom? Or?
Yeah, we do these panels a lot, and I kind of like to just set like a really basic ground rule. Or just a reminder that the first thing you need to have is amazing music. Like, there'll be people that will sell you another platform or another idea and say that's the thing that's holding you back from success. But every single week, 100,000 new songs are released. That means there's 100,000 new kinds of music in the world. Every week, it gets more difficult to stand out. And no matter how amazing your strategy is, if your music isn't compelling, if your music isn't different, if it isn't offering something that people want to listen to as opposed to the entire history of recorded music,
right,
then everything you do is absolutely pointless. But so I don't know. I go to these conferences a lot, and you hear a lot of great talks and a lot of great spiels, and I think sometimes you've just got to go. You just got to take it back, to the song. Maybe I'm an optimist. Maybe I'm a bit old school, but I think
Right.
I like to set that ground rule before we talk about everything else. And of course, you need a strategy. You can, if you have amazing music and you don't have a strategy and you don't have a team behind you, then it's just going to kind of wallow in your bedroom and not get heard. But
yeah, great.
Sometimes I think that doesn't get discussed enough at music conferences.
Right. All right. Cool. So let's say you have you've set up your music as a business. You have a strategy. You have great music, and you have some local traction. So then, since we're talking about taking music global, how do you know when it's time to take your music out of the local market and take it to the world?
I think it can be really hard because we're flooded with all these different types of data, and they can often be misleading. There's so many kind of vanity metrics out there. That you assume kind of tell you one story or another, but at the end of the day, you can read data how you want, and you can use it to tell the story that you want. I often think, and kind of the advice that we give for Australian artists, it's you kind of you want markets to be pulling you towards them rather than you pushing towards them. So whilst you might be really interested in playing in Japan or having a career in Japan, for example. Is there anyone interested? Is there any festivals reaching out to you? Are there any agents? Is there any media? Are you starting to get traction? Quite often, we'll get emails and they'll be like, I got 500 monthly listeners in Germany. Should I tour Germany? No. But maybe those 500 people are all going to buy tickets. I don't know. So I think there's really simple ways in which you can start to kind of test the waters to see if it is actually a true fan base, rather than having to fork out a lot of money to actually go over there and end up having maybe a very fun but expensive holiday. And I mean, maybe you can talk a bit more about this as well. But, I think, really simple kind of digital marketing campaigns. We're in this world now where you have that ability to put a couple of $100 into a digital advertising campaign and just try to seed the waters. Or test the waters, see if there's some pickup. Is there some engagement? Are people starting to follow you on social media? Are they starting to follow you on streaming services? Is it starting to stream maybe and start to buy physical? And I think that's a way that you can start to go, okay, well, yes, there's some traction here. No, there's not some traction here. You might also start to see, I didn't actually expect that I'd have some fans in the Philippines. And then you can start to orient your strategy and go, okay, well, starting to see, let's go with Philippines, for example, starting to see some interest in the Philippines. Okay, well, let's invest a little bit more in that. Is there, PR campaigns, publicity? What are the major ways that people listen to music in the market? What are the main ways that people discover music? And start to kind of build on that, and then hopefully get to a point where the market is you're starting to get comments being play in the Philippines, come to the Philippines, and then start to go over there. And it might not be. I mean, I could talk about this for a long time. And sorry for monopolizing all the time. Musicians, bless you all, you are the most impatient people in the world. You want to be in that market yesterday. And again, from our vantage point, we see it a lot. We see people spend a lot of money to go over and play to absolutely no one. Because they don't have a strategy. Well, they don't have a fan base, but they don't have a strategy yet. They don't know who they're targeting. They don't have a team on ground. So often, our advice is, if you have the means, if you have a manager, or maybe if you're self-managed, send one of your artists over to an event. There's music conferences like this all around the world where music industry is congregating. And it's a really great way of going in first, meeting people, discussing your music with them, seeing who, who are some good people to work with, knowing who maybe are the wrong people to work with, which can also be just as important. And start to build that team and start to build that knowledge before you go in, because I think that puts you in the best possible position to take advantage of the kind of, hopefully, potential groundswell that you have in a market.
Cool. Martin?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, and there's always exceptions, but if you have to ask if you're ready, you're probably not. It's as simple as that. And to Dom's point, if you are ready, if it is time, 99 times out of 100, somebody is going to be reaching out to you. Somebody's going to show you that you're wanted, whether it's a booking agent, whether it's a radio station, whether it's a PR firm, or whatever else there may be. If you're attracting attention in a market to the point that your presence would be beneficial in that market, then somebody's going to tell you that. They're going to show it, right? If people like something, they show it. That's just human nature. So at that point, and the second part to that is, I think, why things like this conference are important is you need to network. You need to have people that you know in different places around the world. So if you think something's happening in the Philippines, if you're seeing some numbers on Chartmetric or Luminate or some platform that exists, whatever it is, and you think, oh, something might be happening, but you're 2,000 miles away and you don't really know, oh, wait, I met that person in Singapore who lives there, and they can give me an honest answer. So let me call them and find out. Let me call them and find out what's going on. Is something really happening, or is it just something that caught and had, it's a little fad and no one actually knows who's singing the song, and, but maybe then they address, they give you the problem that needs to be addressed. Okay, people do actually know the song, they're listening to it, they just don't know who you are. So now your problem becomes, how do I connect that song to my name, to my artist name, right? So again, I think if you have to ask, then you're probably not ready. But that being said, network, make as many contacts as you can, everywhere you can, so that you can get answers, you can get real feedback from people that hopefully will tell you the truth and give you a better indication as to whether it is something worth looking into or not.
And networking can be hard. Like, I totally can appreciate, for like some people, that is just a nightmare. Like going up to a stranger and being like, hi, let me tell you about my music. Like, I get it. Like that is really tough. But unfortunately, it is a necessity. And maybe it's less about thinking about it as like pure networking, but just like, I don't know, making a friend. Like, you just get to know somebody, by the fact that you are there together, you have a shared commonality. You're interested in music. You share something like that. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just saying that I agree, but I just want to acknowledge that for some people, the idea of networking is just they break out in cold sweats.
Right. I mean, I think we all understand making local contacts is super important for getting information on the ground, getting the real story. Is there anything else you think that an artist can prepare to go global, or at least to go out of their local market?
I mean, I really like the idea of collaboration, and something that I've loved seeing at Music Matters and at All That Matters is the artists all hanging out together and getting to know each other. And I know that from the Australian artists, there's a bunch of collaborations that are kind of on the boil and may come out of that. And I think that's a really great way of, again, being able to test if you have a fan base in a market, but also to build your name in another market. The wonderful thing about streaming services is it allows that access to global audiences, and digital allows the ability to collaborate in a way that previously wasn't available. I really, really believe in collaborations, and some are going to be more fruitful than others. But again, just like a really nice way of being able to kind of enter a market and see if there's some interest in there, or to start building a fan base.
Right. Martin, you have some
Yeah,
ideas?
I'm typically a data and analytics person. So this is one of the few times where you'll find me more leaning towards the creative side of that as well. But I think collaboration is great when it's done correctly.
Do you, like, from a ONErpm perspective, like, you have offices all around the world, you have people, you have boots on the ground in so many places and access to really great data. With your whole roster of artists, do you actively try and connect people across the world?
We do, for sure. But what we found, and kind of what I mean from the doing collaborations right and from the creative standpoint, is the best ones and the most successful ones are almost always organic. They almost always involve time together, time spent together, writing together, being in the room together, listening to music, making the music. You see a lot, and I get this a lot from a lot of different markets, where you have an artist and they're like, oh, I want Future on this song, or oh, I want this artist on this song, and it'll be, we want $50,000, we want $100,000 to make this happen. And that's what a lot of music companies will do. They'll give into that request, or they'll leverage that request to sign an artist, where at the end of the day, yes, you're appeasing somebody, but the likelihood of that actually working and the likelihood of that actually helping you as an artist get more exposure and get bigger and get real fans is not great. It's a forced collaboration. It's okay, like, are you an artist in Singapore, Indonesia, wherever, getting Future on a song? Do you think that you're really going to convert Future's fans into your fans? Is that realistic, right? Maybe it is, in which case you do it. But more times than not, with these high-paid collaborations that you're just sending a check to somebody and not going into the room and creating together, it doesn't have the end result that people think. It just looks good. It's clout. It's not business, right?
It's like every Maroon 5 collaboration.
I won't speak to that.
They're not with ONErpm, are they? No.
No.
Definitely not.
But collaboration's done well. Collaboration's done organically. Collaboration's done together with like-minded artists, with music that meshes together. You really can, a real fan of artist A that has this style of music that works well with artist B and creates music that sounds great, has a much better chance of converting those fans into my own fans. And so those are the types of collaborations that I think really could lead to global exposure and global growth.
Right. I mean, it's interesting. There's something intangible that happens when two artists get together and they really relate to each other, they really have the same vibe, and they create a track that, is really great. Whereas, as you say, you pay some famous artist to send you some tracks over the internet and you integrate it into your song, you can use their name. It doesn't have the same energy at all. And most likely, I mean, there may be 1 in 100, but most likely it's not going to do anything for you. I'm going to ask you the $1 million question now, and I don't expect you to guys have any silver bullets, but maybe we can approach it. So how do you? I mean, collaborations, organic collaborations is one way, but how can you build a fan base outside of your local territory? We know in your local territory you can gig, and we heard it in the previous panel. You gig, you sell tickets, you can meet your fans face to face. How can you build a fan base in a territory outside of your own?
That is a $1 million question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is going to differ depending on the kind of artist that you are. Like, yeah, if you have the means, getting on the ground and playing shows and getting in front of people, is just so important. We just think about, it was my former boss used to be an artist manager. This really old school idea, which I'm not sure how many people do anymore. She used to manage this band, and they had a couple of fans. I guess probably what you would call super fans these days, but just actual fans. And they would get a photo with these fans at every show that they went to. And so then next time they went into town, they would open up the photo book and go, we know that Rob comes to this show every time. And so when they get there, they see Rob and they're like, hey, Rob, like, thanks for coming. And there's that, like, connection.
Right.
And that deepens that, deepens that engagement. And I guess what I'm trying to say is any way that you can connect with people on a really kind of human level is super important. And you can do that one way by taking photos with them and remembering their names. I've seen a lot of artists kind of utilize like the close friends feature on Instagram. Like, I think that's a really nice kind of digital way of showing someone, that they're a bit more special. It's a lot of work. Like, it's a lot of work to develop, these fan bases.
Right.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Some people have newsletters, some people have podcasts. Like, yeah, I guess it is going to differ for every kind of
Yeah,
artist.
I mean, I think obviously social media is a great way to connect with fans outside of your fan base, outside of your territory, if you can attract it. And that's the question. How
yeah.
can you attract them if they're not in your social media? I mean, if you have some national coverage or something, then that could go beyond your borders. But Martin, maybe you have some ideas?
Ideas, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of tools that exist that I think everyone is familiar with. Everyone knows, what is at your fingertips. So, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to patience. There's artists that grinded for a decade before something happened for them. Sometimes it happens when they're 15 and can't even legally sign a contract yet. So you just don't really know. And so, what Dom alluded to earlier in the conversation, where you kind of dabble a little, a couple $100 of ads here or there, or you do kind of what you can within your means. Like the main thing is, don't go into debt, don't risk your future, trying to force yourself into a place just because you want to go or because you think it'll work or it'll make you. The other thing is, there's songs that we hear and it's like, that's a hit. But I think today, there's a ton of songs that you hear that you're like, how is that a hit? Right? Like,
Name and shame.
Why? Well, you just don't know. And that's regionally, globally, I see it in a lot of niche markets, and you hear a song and it's like, okay, that's not catchy, that's not good, it doesn't sound good, but yet it's viral, yet it's doing, 300,000 streams a day. So yeah, you hear the hit, it's a hit, okay, maybe that is true. I don't, if anyone actually could do that, then they would own the music industry right now. So I don't really, sometimes people get lucky. But I think at the end of the day, you put out music, you release music, and you test, you try, you do what you can do within your means, and maybe it's not the first song, maybe it's not the 100th song, maybe it's the 1,000th song that something happens. You just have to have patience, and that's just the way the world is and the way the music industry is, because we can't predict what's going to do well and what's not, and sometimes you can try and the opposite will happen.
Yeah. Did you have something to add, Dom? Or?
I was just thinking, I think it's not a bad idea to have a look at, artists that you admire, artists whose careers that you would like to emulate, for lack of a better word, and to have a look at what they're doing, And I think that's both from the kind of the creative perspective, okay, how do they market, what are their kind of strategies, but also looking at, the teams that they work with, who's kind of in their corner, who's their label, who's their distributor, who does their PR in certain places, who is their agent. I think that all can help as well.
Right. I mean, let's address that just for a second. It may be going global, it may be local, but how do you build a good team? I mean, both of you have experience doing that, so I wonder if you have any ideas, pointers on how to build a good team for an artist.
People who are passionate about your music. I think that's what you want first and foremost. You want somebody who's going to put the art at the top more than the commerce at the top. Networking is a big one for that. I see that a lot in my role, just how important networking is to building those teams, and that's where I think if you're an artist, having a manager is really, really important. Like having somebody to do that business side of things for you, to be able to sell you on your behalf, so you can keep more of a focus on the creative side of things, is really important. And I think a lot of international industry, my experience is anyway that they really want to deal with a manager more than an artist. Unfortunately, I'm sure there's a lot of people here who are self-managed, but I mean, the reality is that the vast majority of industry that I have met want to deal with a manager. They want to deal with somebody who's looking after the business side and the strategy, and let the artist do the creative side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to that, I think at the end of the day, it again, in a sense, comes down to networking. When you're talking about managers and teams, I mean, these are people that you have to trust with your business, with your livelihood, with your future in some cases. So, yeah, there might be, somebody that that says they could do it, that doesn't really have experience, doesn't really have referrals, and you could take that chance. And that's not to say that it doesn't ever work out. I mean, that really just comes down to your personal judge of character, which isn't really something that you can teach. But if you don't feel confident in that, then you just have to find somebody who's actually done it, or who has referrals, or is that somebody can vouch for their trustworthiness. Because at the end of the day, your future, you can't just entrust to somebody that isn't trustworthy. And it's too big of a thing to put in the hands of somebody that you have no connection to, nobody to vouch for. And I think that's why you see managers with a lot of clients, especially the successful ones, because they've proven trustworthy. They've proven that what they can accomplish. So again, that's not to say that you can't, new managers can't be successful and can't be trustworthy. It just brings another variable into the conversation, because then you have to judge somebody's character and hopefully get it right. And it's a big thing to rely on.
Yeah. Martin, I'm just going to put you on the spot just for a second here. If you don't have an answer, this is fine. But ONErpm has so many offices around the world, especially, I didn't realize this, territories like Africa and South America. Have you seen artists from those territories go outside, let's just say of their home country, it doesn't have to be outside of their continent, and make successes? If you have any examples of that, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, it helps when the music is English, obviously. So Nigeria, for one, especially, I would say probably a third of the music consumption from Nigerian artists and Nigerian music comes from the US. Another third comes from the UK and Europe. So really only about a third of their revenue, of their streams, is actually coming from their home country or from Africa as a continent. And even Latin America as well. Like it really just comes down to countries with large diasporas and other places, and those diasporas being so big that they can support the music in those countries.
And Dom, maybe you have some examples of Australian artists.
I think we're out of time. I don't want to.
Yeah, you're not ready to share?
I just don't like to eat into other people's time, that's all.
All right.
You can come up to me and I'll give you examples.
We can wrap it up. Thank you. Please, a big round of applause for my panel. Thank you.